We have arrived at episode 73 of Our Town with Troy By, where I have interesting conversations with interesting people. And today's guest, this week's parts 1 and 2, is no exception to that, as I interviewed Christina Meredith, who is the author of CinderGirl. That's a memoir of her life, and it is an incredible story. I read the book twice in preparation for the interview. She came in with her husband, John, and their little daughter, who is 1 year old, Braylon, on a Saturday in the studio, and got a chance to meet her face to face and essentially walk through her life in this book that she wrote. Amazingly, to me, as I told her in the interview, the physical abuse came at the hands of her mother. I thought it would have been from a father or a male figure. However, later, sadly, she accounts the sexual abuse that came at the hands of her uncle. All the names in the book were changed to protect, and there was an extensive legal review in which much of the book was taken out, but she hopes that a movie will be made one day, and the full truth, if you will, and everything that she intended to put in the book will come out in that movie. But in short, we will move through her childhood and the abuse that was there to living in her car and being homeless for a number of years, and then being discovered in a Whole Foods in Santa Monica, California. Discovered in the sense of someone approaching her and suggesting, hey, you should be in beauty pageants. And she looked into it and became and crowned Miss California in 2013. So the triumph is amazing. The strength is amazing in talking with her. She has been interviewed many times, so I was very thankful. And not just interviewed many times, but on extremely high-profile TV shows, networks, other podcasts, if you will, throughout the country. So honored to have Christina spend some time with me and to share her story, which on her platform that she ran as Miss California was reform of foster care. As we continue to tell the story of North Alabama, and as I mentioned to Christina, we have had many guests on, whether they were adopted themselves or through the foster care system. We had an episode on the National Children's Advocacy Center. As you're going to see in this book, if you read her book, CinderGirl, or just listening to this interview, mental health. We've had a few episodes with guests where we've addressed mental health. All of this essentially comes into play, and Christina now resides here in Huntsville with her husband John and their little daughter Braylon. So it's a powerful episode. I hope you'll enjoy it. Again, we will start with part 1 and part 2, and essentially walk through her life. However, at the end of part 2, we will dive a lot into something called Christina's Law in the state of Florida, where Christina recently moved from. She was pushing hard for legislation to have essentially anybody who rapes, because she will say that you know a child doesn't have sex, a child is raped, and so perpetrators, any child. At the end of part 2, Christina talks about the legislation that she is trying to push. She had tried to run for representative in Florida and in the Jacksonville area. Was unsuccessful in that, but there has been some success in a bill that she was proposing called Christina's Law, whereby essentially a death penalty is the maximum sentence given to those who rape young children and sexually abuse those under the age of 12. You will hear her very upset, through the justice system as she tells her story on reforming not only foster care, but reforming the justice system when it comes to the punishments that are levied or not levied on sexual predators. So I hope you will enjoy these 2 parts to the episode. And continue to like, subscribe, rate the show. Trying to put out a lot more shorts on YouTube, so check those out. Going back through a lot of prior episodes and pulling out some good clips and content if those were lost in people not checking out the full episode. And then also shout out to Riley Zepp, who is my intern this summer from Auburn University. He's continuing to work to put segments of the shows out on YouTube. So hope you continue to enjoy it and spread the word. So let's go to the part in the book where I really want people to get an appreciation for like the hard work and the work ethic that sometimes.
Oh, you were talking about free will.
I will. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
That's okay. Where I love it when, I guess this is when you kind of enter the foster system, you're out of your mother's care. We were talking about, I guess, her trying to end her life. That's kind of where we were ending. But, and you end up like relying on this group of friends to take you to school. Mm-hmm. So you could stay at Nice, which ultimately is where Tim Tebow went. And you talk about Tim Tebow and his dad, in the book. Yep. But for sake of time, I don't think we'll be able to talk about. I'd love to like read the book with you, though. I think that would be fun. Yeah, it could be like a 12-hour podcast, but like, I think it would be awesome. And by the way, whoever you had read it,
Hope,
was fantastic.
I picked her because her name was Hope.
Did you?
Yeah.
She did a really good job.
She had a beautiful voice.
And in fact, I mean, I even heard that guy that was telling you that was watching that couple that were reviewing it. Mm-hmm. At times, I kind of felt like it was your voice. Which I think was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, he did say that, yeah.
He did mention that.
We spoke on the phone, and I was like, you're the one.
Yeah, she did a great job.
Yep.
But, so I was just like, wow, 5:30 in the morning, right? And, like, you only had so many friends. We haven't even really talked about Danny, and so I don't know if that's his real name. But others there was the other Christina.
Christina and Rachel are real names.
Rachel.
Some of them are real, some of them aren't.
Some of these were just a handful of friends and influences, throughout life that helped you.
Kendall, still her and I talk often. And
do you?
Yeah, her kids are growing up, and her husband are doing wonderful, and it's always fun. And Buster and his wife and their kids, and some of my best friends in high school, we still keep up, and it's really nice.
But I think there's a couple lessons here. Like anybody that you just have to keep working, and it's like you get and have a work ethic and a purpose. And I think you had mentioned if just get involved, and if you're in an abusive situation or whatever, you're in an oppressed situation, if there's opportunity, then take advantage of it. Yeah. And you were involved in like everything when it came to NJROTC and the cross country team and this and that, yet also just not really you didn't have a stable life in any way. Yeah, you were. This goes back to the point you made earlier. There's no substitute for mom and dad.
No.
And this is what you and John now have the opportunity to provide. This is how you break the cycle, right? This is how we solve so many problems. If you have your mom and your dad loving. So true. Loving also means, there's going to be some appropriate discipline. There's going to be some teaching and some instructing, right? But and it doesn't matter if you've been adopted or like everybody longs for mom and dad.
100%.
And when you don't have that, it's a lifelong gap.
It is a hole that never heals over.
Exactly. So it was interesting. So it started with laundry lady and working. You work a lot harder than most kids at that age. And then it was just interesting to see, wow, you're getting up early. These good friends are picking you up, and they're getting you to school, and you're just busying yourself and developing a routine and developing discipline, and had some good, master sergeant and first
sergeant, master chief.
Master chief in your life.
Yeah. So I would say to that in high school, because it was so dysfunctional, because I was in and out of different homes all the time, and there was just so much crazy. Sports and ROTC gave me structure and stability, and it also gave me purpose. That's why for the last decade I've been advocating for mandated trauma therapy for all foster youth and mandated after-school activity. Because if you're taking these kids from broken homes, and they're just like me, in and out of all sorts of homes, and in and out of, DCF and social visits and all the things that come along with being in the system, at least they have that one thing. They've got that violin practice. They've got that football practice. They've got ROTC practice. They've got basketball or volleyball or, choir or whatever it is. That gives them stability, structure, but also gives them purpose. And what do kids long for, outside of having a mom and dad? Purpose.
Yeah.
Children desire purpose just like adults. That's what we're wired for. That's why children who are in after-school activities excel more than their peers who aren't, because they have something to fight for. They have something to build off and grow off. And it helps with self-esteem too. So you've got these kids who, like myself, who are in broken homes and have horrible self-esteem. I mean, I didn't learn to read till I was in high school. I knew I was dumb to an extent, not of my own doing, just because there was so much going on in my brain I couldn't process, like most of my peers. So all I had was athletics, but I could smoke most of my peers out of the water on a track, right? And so that gave me my self-esteem back. So yeah, I wasn't intellectually bright like my peers, but I could run faster than them. Yeah. And that made me feel good. So there's so much positives when you look at having that structure and having that discipline and having that purpose to give kids. So I think, especially the military structure gave me so much in that. Yeah, I had to be at school at 5:30 for SEAL team practice because I had to compete at the national and state level. And you're not going to compete at those levels if you're not training with your buddies. And Nice High School, by far in my time, from 2001 to 2005, we were the top in the nation almost every year. And we competed at such a amazing level that structure and that camaraderie with my peers was just everything. And it was great. I mean, it really saved me. ROTC really saved me. I say that all the time because it's so true, and God gave me that, which is why I wanted to be an officer so bad in the military.
This episode is brought to you by TPG. TPG is the founder of the quality assurance industry, and most known for the tagline, "This call may be monitored for quality assurance," which they brought to the call center market more than 26 years ago. They dominate the market with an internationally recognized client base of Fortune 500 brands. They have created the quality standards used by their clients and have defined 307 attributes that they measure to define a great conversation, including complex concepts such as skills associated with empathizing and rapport building with customers. For more information on TPG, visit them at tpginc.com. Yeah, even though, and similarly, we'll talk about the pageant here in a little bit, but the talent scout, if you will, or someone discovers you in Whole Foods in Santa Monica and hands you their card. But
so
also,
crazy.
In the book, though, you talk about when the family you were living with, when she dropped you off at quote unquote summer camp.
Yeah.
And it was NJROTC.
Because I was a bad kid. I needed discipline.
And as much as you were, I like the style of your writing where you constantly are like something happens and then you kind of go through a litany of questions as far as kind of having the reader understand what's going through your mind. And, like, when am I in trouble? What's this camp? Or does my mom know? And then you were also upset, kind of like you just kind of get dropped off. But by the end of that first day, you were loving it. And you just soaked
Obsessed.
It in. So which I guess maybe sometimes adults are like, oh, she's going to love it. Even though she is a little bit nervous about it, it's going to be, it's going to be fine.
Well, I think Miss Violet, from my understanding, she did it because she thought I was a bad kid.
Oh, really?
She thought I needed, my mother had told her that I was, I wasn't a good listener. I wouldn't listen. I was bad. I would cause mischief. I needed discipline, blah, 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 all these things. It's not true. Like, I was a mouse. I wouldn't speak unless spoken to. And if you told me to do something, immediately I would do whatever it is that you told me. So, I'm sure she probably picked up on that. But she got sold a bill of goods about what a bad kid I was. And so she thought, oh, I know how to fix her.
Yeah.
ROTC, pre-military boot camp.
And it turns out to be just a huge benefit to you.
Best blessing that God ever gave me.
Yeah.
Pre-boot camp at Nice High School.
So let's fast forward you to you're out of high school now, and you graduate.
Yep, age out of foster care.
Age out of foster care. And what does that do? Some kids, even if they turn 18, I guess aging out means in traditional foster. You didn't get adopted. Do they sometimes stay with that family until they do, or?
No, I mean, every kid's story is different and every system is different state by state.
Right.
It's not all uniform. It's all either privatized or public. It just depends. But in Florida, it's changed a lot clearly since I was in foster care. But because now they have a program called Foster 21, which means you can actually stay in foster care until you're 21. Now, most kids don't take advantage of that because the system sucks and they get out as soon as they can, like I did. But yeah, so most kids do go home to home. Some children do get to stay in their foster home until they're 18, and some get adopted by that foster home. So it really just depends. I would say most, between 20 and 30,000 children age out of foster care every year and end up homeless. That's been the norm, and it grows and grows each year. The number gets worse. And I think, my story is similar to most. I mean, you turn 18 and you run from the hills. You're tired of being a part of the system, So, yeah, I didn't want anything to do with foster care, social workers, guardian ad litems, kids bridge, kids care. I didn't want anything to do with any of that. I was so tired of it,
Again, because even though you might have a roof over your head and they're feeding you, it's still not a family.
No, it's not a family, and it's a everyday reminder that you're a burden in some way. For me, I knew I was a burden on that family, and the constant family meetings and, them being upset with me for borrowing clothes that were in their closet, or, hiding food in my room, or whatever it was that I was doing. It's just a constant reminder that I didn't fit in, and I didn't belong there. And I was tired of that feeling. I was over it.
Yeah.
So literally the day I turned 18, I left, and I'm so glad I did, because they turned out to be really bad people.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you end up living in your car.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time you're working. You're working at Village Inn and Smoothie King.
Firehouse Subs.
And it's interesting. I talked about that when I was talking to Jessica Brown from First Stop, which is a service organization that helps the homeless, where there's still plenty of people they offer the service called Shower Up.
Oh, what a great service!
They're able to take a shower and then go to their job.
Yeah.
And then hopefully there's not that stigma. Oh, this is this homeless person, but the fact is they can't afford to live in Huntsville, or they're working on saving up, right?
Yeah.
But at least they can have a clean shower and go to work and feel like a human.
I wish I had that.
at whatever job. Yeah, so you end up homeless. You're living outside of your car, which you called Sunny.
Yeah.
And you're using the public beach access to shower, right?
I got smart real quick, because I didn't realize you don't know what you don't know, and so I did not realize the dilemma of not having access to a shower, until I moved into my car, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And so at first I would try to go to friends' houses and take showers, and then that became uncomfortable, and you just felt uncomfortable, and you felt like a burden again, and you're just like, I'm not doing that. And then I was an avid surfer. I grew up, one of the homes that it wasn't technically a foster home, but this family had always taken us kids to church with them, and they were like always around some of us siblings at some point, and they taught us all how to surf in Volano. And so intermittently through the years, I would go on these surf trips to Volano and throughout St. Augustine to surf with this family. And so I picked it up in high school, and so I paddled out every morning, and I just learned, I could take a shower at the beach access, and no one would even know.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did for basically that whole year and a half that I was homeless, and it was sucked.
But you saved your money.
Yep, saved my money.
And ultimately you get that first apartment.
Yeah, oh God, it was so great. I can remember that like it was yesterday, just running through that little condo in Volano, and just, it was so clean and like basically brand new, and the skylight coming through this little 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It was beautiful. It was magical. And then the ocean is right across the street, so it was like, who in the world goes from homeless to this little ocean beach apartment? It was wonderful.
Yeah, I like that imagery you say where you just kind of screamed and ran through the house
I had
in
my
excitement,
hands,
right?
My hands were touching the walls. I just laid down. I just laid down on the carpet at one point, and then I laid down below the skylight, and then I took the longest shower of my life. Is she okay? What did you do?
Hey, bud.
All right, let's not do that again. Yeah, daddy's too rough. But I took the longest shower of my life, and I was just so thankful that God had brought me at a place where I had felt so much shame and I felt so much ugliness being homeless because I could never get all the germs off, you know. And especially as a woman, I mean, that time of the month when you menstruate, it's even harder. People don't think about that, but it's even harder when you're homeless. You can't shower like you're supposed to. It's like you just feel so much shame and you just feel so dirty, and it's awful. And I just remember having my own shower for the first time and going, I'm going to be clean forever. And even now to this day, when I take showers, they're much quicker, very quick because I have a baby, if I do get a shower. But I am just so thankful that there's running water that can clean me. And until you experience a type of loss, until you experience what it's like to not have that ability, you really truly can't be thankful for it, because it's a miracle that running clean water comes out of a faucet when you want it to, and it can clean you. And it is such a gift. Yeah. It is one of the best, most amazing gifts that we here in America get every day that most people take for granted.
Sure. And then ultimately your sister, and she moves in with you?
Yeah, my little sister Monica.
And then you guys head out to California.
Yeah. So my little sister surfed semi-pro. So she was sponsored by the local surf shops, and she was so good at surfing. And she was getting caught up in a bad scene, and I didn't know what to do. And I had been working at Lemon Bar and bartending, and I was a maid at the hotel in the morning, and I was just working doubles and saving up money.
And this was down in Miami?
No, this was Jacksonville.
That was in Jacksonville.
Yeah, everything was in Jacksonville. I went to elementary, middle school, high school, and then I enlisted in the Army in 2016. So
I guess you had to go down to Miami though at some point and get her and pick her up and bring her back.
So she was going to Johnson and Wales.
I see.
When the incident happened, that was horrible, and I picked her up in the middle of the night and brought her back home to Jacksonville with me. And I had a little beach apartment off Florida Boulevard in Neptune Beach, and it was magical. And then we lived on 13th North in Jacksonville Beach. But yeah, so she signed up for the lifeguard station, and she became a lifeguard in Jacksonville Beach, which is a very well known little community. And she started just getting caught up into some bad stuff, like drugs and boys and stuff, and I didn't know what to do. But I knew she was so good at surfing, and I had heard somewhere that, and this is so funny, and every time I say it, I'm like, man, how did you ever get that in your head? That California, Los Angeles, was like the land of dreams. That's where dreams come true.
Yeah, that's right.
And for years, when I was homeless, I started writing CinderGirl. I told myself that I was going to write a book. It was going to turn into a movie. I was going to speak to millions around the country. I was going to start a foundation and change foster care and change the way we handle child rape and do all of these things. And this is what I planned on when I was homeless. And so I had been writing CinderGirl. I started writing CinderGirl when I was homeless, and then I, worked on my foundation and started speaking and doing local work in Jacksonville. With foster youth and sharing my story and things like that. And finally I was just like, let's just go to LA. It's the land of dreams. So I pack her and I up, and because California is so close to Hawaii and there's such a big surfing community there, I was like, this is great for her and me. Mm-hmm. So we pack up, and I tow my little Honda behind my U-Haul, and we end up in Ventura, which I didn't know wasn't LA proper, because what do I know? I had never left Jacksonville outside of being in New York from, 6 or 7 years old to Jacksonville, St. Augustine to Jacksonville. I never left. I didn't know any better. So I'm in Ventura thinking it's Los Angeles, going, where are we? I was culture shocked because you drive into California and it's all Hispanics. I had never seen... Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what that culture looked like. And so we're driving through, and I'm like, are we going to get, like, I was just so culture shocked, truly culture shocked, from the South to driving cross country and ending up in Ventura. Well, we settled in, and I ended up getting a bar job at the Venice Whaler because I bartended, my whole adult life. And just like Lemon Bar was famous, Venice Whaler's famous, and which I didn't know until after I got the job, but it was so gross. It's another dirty
Really?
beach bar. Yeah, it's just, I mean, the Lemon Bar was cleaner, but it's also a very famous little beach bar. But the Whaler is like a dirty beach bar.
I went up. So my brother lives on Ocean Avenue,
Okay.
about a mile
Santa
from
Monica.
the Whaler.
Yeah.
No, in Venice Beach.
Oh.
And we used to go to Hanana Burger all the time when I would go visit him, which is near the Whaler on Washington Boulevard.
Okay.
And do you know, I mean, I'm sure people, but he's been there since 1995 in the same
Okay,
house.
so the Venice Whaler probably was really nice at one point. And when I moved there, it
Yeah.
started going really downhill. So he probably,
Did you ever, his name is Brent By.
maybe I served
I'll
him.
show you a picture.
If
or
he went to
something.
the Whaler to get some booze, I mean,
I don't know. Actually, I don't even know if he really drinks, but he's lived there for so long, and he doesn't really ever have food in his house.
so he walks to the little.
They just go down there, and,
Yeah.
and I have a little iPod shuffle. One time he gave me an iPod shuffle for Christmas in like 08 or 09,
That's so
and it said "Save room for Hanana Burger"
Oh, cute.
on it. But
Yeah,
anyway,
it's very popular. I made good money. So I was
That's
working,
awesome.
working at the Whaler, and living in Ventura, and so I'd have to commute. And then I ended up renting a room with three other girls, like literally sharing a room with three other girls because that's what you do in LA.
like a studio, yeah.
I didn't know, it was so
It's
crazy.
so expensive.
And my sister went out to Hawaii to compete in some surf competitions. So she was there for several months competing in this little.
Is it on the North Shore?
I don't even know. She was all over Hawaii just competing in these little tournaments. And so I was alone and minding my own business, just telling people what I was going to do. I'm writing this book and I'm looking for a literary agent and and flipping bottles at the Whaler. And I'm walking through Santa Monica Whole Foods because I'm bougie. I'm poor, but I'm bougie.
You're your mother's daughter.
Yes, thank you. She taught me some things. And I was just minding my own business. And I was in this hideous long purple dress. I actually have a photo of me in this dress with this crazy sun hat on. And I had cowboy boots on. Like, I looked like a hot little southern mess. Not cute. It was just like, you're a mess. And bright purple and pink. I don't know what I was thinking. It was so crazy. And this guy comes up to me, and he is leather shoes, crocodile shoes, and like very nice suede suit, just so oozing LA, which I didn't even know that was a thing until, I had lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought for sure he was hitting on me, and he's like, hands me a card. He's like, have you heard of Miss California? And I was like, what? I didn't go to prom. I worked a double at Firehouse Subs.
Were you wearing your glasses at the time?
Probably. I'm blind without them. I didn't get contacts I don't think I got contacts until Miss California, actually.
Okay.
Maybe before. I was so new for me for contacts because they were so expensive I couldn't afford them. But probably in my glasses. And, which is so like me because I'm they just whatever. I did not wear them today. I wore my contacts today. But he's like, do you know what Miss California is? And I was like, no, like, what do you want from me, dude? I'm not going to date you. Which is what I was thinking. I didn't say that. And he's like, you should compete. I'm a recruiter for the pageant and you would be perfect, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, trying to like walk away with my whatever it is I was doing and put the card in my bag. And I thought for sure he was just trying to hit on me. And it was so creepy weird because he was definitely older than me. And I was like, who's this guy? So he goes away and I hear about my business. But then that night I go online and I'm like, I look at the Miss California pageant and I had this dawn light moment where I'm like, holy crap, this is a real thing. This is a real ability for me to get my story out there and do all the things I want to do. And it's just, oh my gosh, I did not even know. But mind you, no ma'am.
She's doing her sign language.
You want some water? Yeah. I know you're hungry. Try to eat your octopus. But I just was like, I remember thinking this could change my life and I was going to do it. And I had a boyfriend at the time who I told I was going to do it and he made fun of me and said I would never win. And then I promptly broke up with him and applied to compete in Miss Ventura. And then I competed in Miss Ventura and won Miss Ventura.
Yeah.
And was able to go to state.
I liked how in the book you you're just kind of like, all right, how do I do this? I'm gonna
Yeah.
win Miss California, so what do I need to do? Oh, I have to win a local pageant.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me do that.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
you it's all, and I think again goes back to RTC taught me so much. You have to prepare for your future, right? And so what I learned through 4 years of being in JRTC is in order to get to B, you have to start from A.
Yeah.
And you have to have a plan, a 5-step, 10-step, 15-step plan. So if I've had this 20-year plan that I wrote when I was homeless, all the things I was going to do and all the things I was going to change because of my story. And so when I saw the Miss California pageant, I was like, oh, okay, step 1, win the local pageant. And how do I do that? Well, I have to get local sponsorship. So I started knocking on Ventura business stores saying, hey, I wrote out a little pamphlet. I had like this one sheet of my face and then like my story and what did I want to do if I won Miss California, which is reform foster care. And I was like, I'm going to win. This is what I'm going to do. Give me your money.
Yeah.
And I raised tens of thousands of dollars doing that and competed in the city and won. And then the state did the same thing, knocked on businesses in Ventura and a little bit outside of Ventura. I was like, here's my one sheet. This is my name. I'm Christina Meredith. I'm going to win. Give me your money. And I didn't raise as much money as the other girls who do this for a living, like pageantry as a sport. Again, something I did not know.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you experience it. And so I show up to compete at Miss California day 1 with my Army Navy junior ROTC duffel bag, which had been totally it's just gross.
Yeah,
like,
it's frayed.
And it's me, just me showing up with the little things that I thought I would need. And these other girls with pit crews.
Yeah.
With moms and grandmothers and hairstylists and makeup artists and 4 gowns in case one gown they don't like or pops a seam. And they've got their own little cubicles in their pit stop with all their things. And I'm like,
whoa,
I am definitely underprepared. And so I had to assimilate quickly. And that day or that night I made some phone calls and I actually made friends with some of the girls that were doing makeup and hair. And I was like, hey, could I pay you to do my makeup and hair after you do your real clients makeup and hair?
Yeah.
And so I got a hodgepodge, just like little...
You built your little crew?
Yes, my hodgepodge little crew. And then one of my sponsors, who is so sweet, came and she helped me. And I was just like, I don't have a mom and a grandmom or $1 million like these girls, but... I'm a baller on a budget and I know how to work hard and I will outwork these girls. And that's essentially my attitude for everything is they might have the proper tools, but I'm going to work harder with what I have less. I might not have all the tools, but I'll work harder than you. And that's what I did. And so,
were the girls accepting of you? Did you have like a little bit of
Some.
friendship, but then there was just too much competition? And
yeah, it's very weird because you're actually judged on like miscongeniality and all these things. And so they judge you in your behaviors and you can tell some girls are so fake.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, it's like, dude, you are trying so hard to be nice to everybody and it's clearly not authentic. You've got to stop. Just be you. If you're not into someone, just be yourself. But I don't know. I think there's the way I grew up. I don't have that filter. If I think you're a seedy, shady person, I'm like, yo, dude, what's your problem?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you being so, what's your deal? Why can't you just be honest right now? I don't have that, I can't go along to get along, which is my issue in politics.
Yeah.
Which I soon found out because by experience. But
so then really what helped you win was just the fact that this platform was so near and dear.
It's authentic.
It's just authentic.
It was real.
And it was so much more impactful and powerful than the other contestants.
And I think the judges quickly recognized, okay, this is a real story with a real girl who wants to make a real difference. It's not like I'm going to use this crown and this sash to better my modeling career, which I didn't have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just, I think, uniquely different where I stepped into a sport, because pageantry is a sport, not knowing the mechanics of it or what it's really about, and trying to use it as a vehicle for good. I think that's what made me stand out. And so when they called my name during the pageant, I cried because they said my name, and I hadn't heard my name in so long. I mean, I had years and years and years of not hearing my name and being called stupid or bitch or slut or dumb or demon. And, you know, even in high school, my nickname was Rugrat. I was a tomboy. I didn't, you know, no one called me Christina or was Chris. If they were really in my circle, then my girlfriends called me Chris. I kind of rejected my femininity because I had been abused by it, and it took me years to overcome that. And I think God used Miss California to help with that. I bloomed into a young woman through the Miss California pageant experience. You know, that's my story. A lot of young women who are already bloomed and were already embracing that, and God really used that as a vehicle for healing for me, because I was offended almost by my own beauty, my own femininity. I was like, oh, gross, don't do that. You know, so I really rejected it for a long time. And well, you wouldn't know that now, right?
Yeah. Well, we would have known that had we just started with Miss California in a way in this episode.
Yeah.
Right, where you just assume, oh, all these girls are put together. They're all daughters of trust fund.
Yeah,
Dad
most of
runs
them are.
some, you know, big private equity firm in Massachusetts. I don't know. Obviously, that's not California, but you know,
Most of
they all went to private school. They
Yeah.
had horse. You know, they were equestrian athletes. And
It is a sport for the wealthy for sure. It is not cheap. You can't be a poor girl doing pageants. It's just not. It's just not.
let me ask you this. I always like to ask this type of question. And I give it to scouts, talent scouts. It doesn't matter what the sport is. And it's for this man, even though you were a little bit freaked out at first, like, okay, who's this dude? He's picking up on me, right?
Rough around the edges for sure.
Yeah. But yet he ultimately, in the Whole Foods, sees the potential, whatever it is they evaluate. Same thing when they evaluate actors and actresses, right? They just pull these people, diamonds out, you know, diamond in the rough type thing. Was there anything a part of that day where you were not supposed to go to Whole Foods or you were debating your schedule? And
Not that I recall.
or was it just a part of that was just on your list and you were going to do it that day?
Yeah. It was on I was hungry.
Or you were like, oh, I'm going to go exercise first. No, you should go to the store now. Where you would have possibly missed that opportunity.
I don't remember. I don't remember exactly. I just know I was hungry. I needed to go get food, and I like healthy food, so I went to Whole Foods. I don't know if I would have missed it, but I worked at the Whaler, so lots of primetime people go to the Whaler.
Yeah.
You know, so any recruiter could have
Seen you
me there. That's a very, at least back then, I don't know if it's gone
Well,
slower.
maybe he doesn't go down to Venice Beach.
Yeah. It was Santa Monica. I mean, it's the bougie. Santa Monica's the bougie.
But the Whaler was in Venice Beach.
Yeah,
right?
Venice is considered kind of dirty.
Yeah. Muscle
Santa
Beach is down there. I don't know. That's no offense to you, John, but it's
It's
fun to watch.
literally just it's like a minute over from the Whaler. It's like right there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. It's not far.
I love riding beach bikes with my brother from like, really, we come on Washington Boulevard, and then we just go up to Santa Monica to the pier.
Yeah. Santa Monica's nice, but I think with unfortunately with this governor, he's kind of destroyed the state with the homelessness.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
drugs,
Oh, that's
so
taken over too. I haven't been there in a while. That's like the west coast of
same.
Hawaii.
It's
Wow, like Oahu. It's
sad.
bad.
It's happening in Jacksonville. It's very sad.
Is it really?
Yeah.
In Seattle, have you ever been to
downtown.
Seattle? Oh my goodness.
No, I
They
haven't.
live
I'm
everywhere.
not.
They just live inside the clover leaves of highways. They're just full of.
It breaks my heart because I know that the bondage that they're in, it's not freedom
No.
living that way. It's real. It's sadness and
Yeah.
it's brokenness, and you're literally living in your own cesspool, and it breaks my heart. It makes me very sad.
So with Miss California, you have the whole year where you're going on speaking engagements and you're really helping to launch your platform, right? That was your springboard.
It was. It really was.
One thing I want to ask you before I forget, your father wrote letters at the time when Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida.
Yep.
You later get to dine with Jeb Bush.
Yeah.
Did you ask him if he was aware at all of your family's case?
Yeah, I actually spoke with him that night when I was at his. This was before he announced that he was running, and one of my mentors, who I met after Miss California, Brad Freeman, who's such a sweet old man. He's like and which I didn't know, but he's like the biggest Republican donor.
Running for president, Jeb
Right.
Bush. That what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brad is best friends with George, and they had been buddies since Stanford or whatever, and he's like the number one Republican donor since beginning of all time. So anyways, he invited me to go with him to this event with Jeb because he knew my story, and I was finishing writing my book at his house. And I had the letter that my dad had sent because in my case file they give you everything. And so everything my dad submitted through the courts, I had. And I asked Jeb if he remembered my story, and he was like, no, but he was like, I'm so proud of you for surviving, because he knows. I mean, statistically speaking, I should not be any of the things that I am.
Mm-hmm.
I should have been dead a long time ago. Multiple kids with multiple fathers, multiple drug addictions, multiple mental illness, multiple, probably multiple felonies. If I survived that long, I mean, the statistics for kids in care on both sides for girls is detrimental, and for boys, like 80% end up in the prison system. So, it's about out. It's not a good.
Yeah.
And so he made that comment, and I was like, wow, that was so nice of him. I was like, I'm working hard, and I was so young too then.
No, it's awesome.
And he actually gave to my campaign. My husband and I went down and saw him last year before I was going to run. And I was like, can you just tell me what I should know? And he told me, and I was like, no, it's not going to be like what he said. And it was exactly what he said.
Oh, they're going to come after you.
Yeah. He's like, I would not recommend it with a baby. I was pregnant at the time with a baby, and the way politics is. And I was like, can't be that bad. I'm not running for anything that major, but local politics is just as corrupt as national, unfortunately, state and national.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's always been kind. Governor Bush has always been kind to me and my family, and
Yeah, that's good.
he's a kind man. He's a very kind man.
So you meet it's funny. There's so many character names, and I'm trying to remember them all. Not Dr. Cloud. The other one, Freeman.
Yeah, Brad. That's
them. Okay,
Yeah.
and you go live with him.
Yeah, I lived with him for like 6 or 7 months.
Okay.
In his mansion.
That's right. And then
in Brentwood.
And then and I thought that was funny too, because at the very, very beginning you was about your godmother, your grandmother that couldn't get over the OJ trial, which
My
was
mother.
It was in Brentwood.
Yeah.
Right. And I just found that like sometimes these parallels jump out at me.
If anyone would have said to me, you'll be living in a mansion in Brentwood, I would have laughed a million times and like, you're drunk. But there I was. And then I ended up living with the Clouds in Bel Air.
It's crazy.
And there's, apartment above their
Only
house.
in America, right?
It really is so true. That's why when I hear these stories about, the unequity or the white privilege or the whatever they're calling it now, where you can't come from something and make something of yourself. It's like, that's a lie. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You can overcome anything. Is it easy? No. It's going to cost you. It is hard. It took me my entire life, and I'm still fighting. I haven't made it yet. I've made a difference.
Yeah.
But I haven't made it to where I consider myself, I can just stop now. No, I have so much more to do. There's so many things I want to get ahead of. There's financially goals that I'm still want to meet. Like, I have not made it.
Yeah.
I've made a difference. And so I think that's where people, you just have to work hard. You can't quit. And that's why I have a tagline called Never Surrender.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot give in. It's going to be hard. There's going to be times where you want to quit.
Well, just listening
it's
to
a fight.
your family in this room, right? Like you've essentially, no matter what else happens, you broke the cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the
Your
goal.
family is living proof that you can overcome and you can break the cycle. Hi, Braylon.
Hi, baby. Hey.
Look at her.
I know.
She's so cute.
So cute. She looks a carbon copy of Daddy.
Well, I was going to say that. I didn't want to offend you.
It's
but I
no.
think she looks more like Daddy
People
right
have
now.
been saying that since. Can you see her? People have been saying that since she came out of the womb, and I'm like, yeah, it's so true. She looks just like Daddy. Yeah, sweet girl. But it's even a fight even now for John and I, because John doesn't have parents like I don't have parents. Like, I've seen my dad a few times, but he's not a part of my life, right? So essentially, John and I are on our own.
Yeah.
We don't have grandparents for her. And I think sometimes, you don't have that support, it's even harder. So John and I have to fight harder for our healthy marriage and for our daughter's future.
Yeah.
Because we don't have that support that you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
But it's worth fighting for. That, and him and I know that. Like, we want this. We want more children. We want them to have the structure and the peace and the stability of having a mom and a dad. And John talks about this, as do I, for the last decade. If you go and you look at statistics for inner city outcomes and outcomes for poverty and crime, the number one factor is an absent dad.
Yeah.
An absent dad.
Yeah.
And single motherhood, which for some reason our society applauds. Like, you're a woman, go get impregnated by, and have a baby. Like, no, you're robbing that child of the stability that they need in that father. And you're doing yourself an own disservice because it's incredibly hard to be a single mother. You should not choose that.
Yeah.
That is a burden that is harsh. And so, having a dad that's present, having a father that's present, having a father figure in boys and girls in their life is the difference between having a healthy community and having a dysfunction, crime-ridden community. It's just true.
Yeah. Going back to a little bit what you were saying, I think people are expecting equal opportunity and equal outcomes, whereas it's a matter of just taking advantage of opportunity. Yeah, it sucks. You and you and I think a lot alike, where both of my parents actually are mentally disabled, and it happened when I was 7. So they're not parents to me.
Yeah.
They exist.
Yeah.
I lived with my mother. She's not a mother.
Yeah.
And we weren't in foster care, but we were all with different family.
Yeah. Dysfunctional.
Because we couldn't be with her. And I happened to be with her the whole time, but so some of my brothers have always really struggled with that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, you mentioned this word for word. You were dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at life, is we're kind of all in this card game, and you can be dealt a really bad hand, but just keep playing. You just keep playing.
You can shuffle the deck.
And even if it's not your parents, you realize you're going to have opportunity through others. And there were plenty of others that have stepped in along the way. It doesn't replace mom and dad, of course, but it allowed you to take advantage of opportunity.
Yeah.
And that outcome right now, not everybody gets to become Miss California, but for you took advantage of those opportunities, and that's what the Lord had in store, right? Made possible. And now you're married, and now you have a daughter.
Yeah.
And that's not the same outcome as someone else. But
no, and I think it goes back to hard work, and even though I signed with HarperCollins in 2016, I enlisted in the Army the same year because I had always had the dream of becoming an officer.
Yeah.
It was hard to do that. I had to finish my book. I had to do all these other things obligated through now my contract with HarperCollins. But I knew that if I didn't enlist in the Army, then my dream of becoming an officer would never come true. And so and this is what Dr. Jordan Peterson says, and it's so brilliant. He says, to be fulfilled in life, find the highest responsibility and take on that work. Find the hardest thing that you can do and do it. And it's so true. We are, and I talk about this in my book as well, we are obligated to give the world our talents and our abilities. And it's not the world's job to take care of us or coddle us. I'm not a victim, right? You're not a victim. You can have what you work for, and that's a fact. It's called the natural law.
Yeah.
You reap what you sow. It is just built in. It's how God wired it.
That's right.
You reap what you sow, and that is a fact. I know.
She's been so good.
Do you want me to hold you?
That might be fun.
Come here. I'll hold her. And
you want to be on camera?
Yeah.
Is this her first time on camera, or has she done other interviews with you?
Liberty, but she was the crowd was so big, she was so mesmerized by everybody. You want to say hi? So
I'll zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, she's so sweet. Say hi, baby. Nice, sweet girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love you. Yeah, I love you. So I took up the hard thing because it's something I always wanted to accomplish, and I wasn't going to give up on it. And I knew after the book tour, there's no way I was going to be able to do that. And so, I enlisted, and then I signed up to be a cadet at University of Florida on a non-scholarship contract. And all through my years of juggling, trying to get my degree, because I didn't have any help, it took me years to get it, I finally turned my enlistment into a commission. And when I commissioned in 2020, it was just after my national book tour in 2019 with the Today Show and Fox News and like the whole Huckabee.
Mike Huckabee.
Yeah, everything. And so I know. You're like, what are these, Mommy? Here, you want to play with my phone, which you're never allowed to play with? Figure that out. Good luck. And it was hard. I had to wake up. I lived in Jacksonville at the time, and I had to leave my house at 3 in the morning to get to ROTC training at 5 in the morning at UF. Just like in high school, I had to wake up early to get to where I needed to go, and I had to drive that 2 hours to get there, and there was no excuse. And so I had to sacrifice a lot to get my commission and to get my degree, but it was worth it. And not that now I look at my life and I'm like, would I have changed anything? No, because it taught me so much. It was so hard to do, but it was so worth it because that's another checkbox that I said I was going to do something and I did it. And so I think when you have that type of determination in you to say, I'm going to do something no matter how long it takes. Like I said in 2005, I was going to write a book. Well, I started writing the book, and then I got picked up in 2016, and then I published the book in 2019. How many years is that?
14.
I said I was going to become an officer in the military in 2001. I enlisted in 2016. I became an officer in 2020.
Wow.
Right? And so throughout my life, there's so many things. I mean, even with my foundation, Christina's Law. I started talking about Christina's Law in 2010. I started writing proposals for Christina's Law in 2017. I started having meetings at the federal and national level for Christina's Law in 2020. Mm-hmm. And my opponent, who thinks she was harming me, passed Christina's Law a month ago. Are you sleepy, girl? Yeah, she's tired. She missed her nap, so.
Well, we can wrap it up. You don't want to go like that.
You want Daddy.
Don't be offended.
So, I think, and there's so many other things. Like, my CinderGirl was picked up to become a movie in 2020 by Robert Rodriguez. He bought the rights to it. And we had a meeting with Netflix and several others. Netflix wanted it. But Robert didn't think there was...
the ending, right?
Yeah, he didn't think the ending... There was an ending yet. He's like, you're going to do something more amazing, and I just don't think there's an ending yet. And I'm like, oh. Okay, so his rights expired, and so they're up for grabs again. But I know that one day CinderGirl will become a movie. Like, I know it.
There could be a part 1 and a part 2, Robert.
It's actually what he said. He's like, your life is like a trilogy. So
okay.
I think even with the foundation, all the work I want to do with the foundation still, there's so much more. So I think you just have to commit to things, and you can't quit. For years, I built my life around wanting a husband and a baby. Babies. I hope to be pregnant again. Mm-hmm. I hope I get a baby boy to give you a brother. And I didn't marry my exes. I was engaged several times, and I ended up not doing that because I was like, this is not going to work. Like, I wasn't going to settle. And John is the answer, is the one out of years of waiting and building my life around having a husband who loves the Lord, who wants to be a dad, who wants to be a good dad and a good husband, like a present and there, and build that. And so I always want to share my story with people and say, yes, you can go through hard things, but really you have to work for everything else.
Yeah.
Like, you can't let the hardship and the suffering define you. Like, you can fight for it, and it might take years, and it's going to. I mean, it took me years to accomplish some of the things that I've set out to accomplish, and there's even more years to wait for other things. But it's worth waiting for, because you will get there. It just takes time. People give up too easily. We live in a microwave society. Be the crock pot.
Yeah. I mean, I can think a few moments in your book, but we all have those moments in life where you can have like the best day, but even the very next day can be like difficult.
Yeah.
And like just yesterday, you had the most amazing day.
Yep.
And it was faith-filled, and you have hope, and then so it's just that it's day to day, and you're gonna have, you have those moments, I'm sure, that still there's some demons or some darkness that comes upon you, and you have
triggers are real. I mean, I've done a lot of therapy, so I definitely can function high, but I still have PTSD, high functioning PTSD, and I battle with tormenting anxiety sometimes. But that's just part of the, like you said before, the hand that was dealt, because I went through so many years of traumatic abuse. My body is it's a fight, but it's a fight I give every day because it's worth it. And I know what's on the other side if I fight long enough. Yeah, the healing will be there.
I was thinking about that story, that $17.68 when you guys went across Route 1 to get food.
Milk.
And I thought the same thing with my mother. Like, there was one time I asked her for, like, hey, Mom, we got team pictures coming up. She's like, I don't have any money for that. Like, it's like $20. She's like, no. So I went, it's like, well, what about package B? Package B is like $12. No. How about package C is $7? She's like, I don't have $7. And so that was kind of that moment where I'm like, I need to start working, because she can't even afford to get me like baseball pictures, Yeah. And I was thinking about that when you and your friend, this is where I would want to read the book with you, because it's amazing to me. You guys go to get the food, you bring it back. You have to go to a neighbor's house to cook it.
Yep.
Then you bring it home. So it's like all the questions that could have been asked along the way. Like,
I remember rolling those suitcases across A1A to Winn-Dixie like it was yesterday.
To Winn-Dixie. But
it's crazy what God has allowed me to experience.
But somehow that's a cherished memory too.
Yeah.
Right?
We were so proud.
Yeah.
We were so proud to take the little money that we'd worked babysitting in our little neighborhood and feeding our siblings.
Yeah.
And, it was just that day was a success.
Yeah.
My baby sisters and baby brothers did not go hungry. I had never felt so proud whenever I had managed to clothe them or bathe them, which sounds so silly, but we didn't always have running water.
Yeah.
We didn't always have clean clothes.
Yeah.
We certainly always didn't have food. So those small victories were always the most fulfilling,
Yeah. Well, the book is CinderGirl. We will, when we do this in edit, we'll put a picture of it up on the screen.
I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff you can put
Please do. Christina Meredith, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Which I'm just going to, again, consider this round 1 of our time. You think you'll be in Huntsville a while?
I think John wants to stay another year, so yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you're here. It's fun to have new people come. It's a good town.
I'm trying to get Christina's Law on the books here, so.
I forgot to tell you, Crescent Beach is my favorite beach.
Oh, really?
We used to live in
Beach
Palm.
by the
Yeah. I used to have it's just south of, it's just north of Marineland.
Marineland. That's what I was trying to say. Dolphin something, but Marineland,
Our family lived in Palm Coast.
Beautiful there.
I used to have a house there. My mom lived there. My grandma lived there. And Crescent was my aunt's favorite because Flagler was like too coarse. Like there was too many shells in the sand. Oh, man, that Crescent Beach. We didn't go much further north of that because they had that little restaurant on the beach and then public showers and all that. But, so
it's beautiful.
I love St. Augustine for, I guess, the tourist side, but I've never got mixed up in the law there with Herman Hitchcock and others.
He was
dead?
Arrested now. No,
that's right. He abused his boys.
Yeah, he got arrested for child abuse for his 2 sons. And,
I should have.
I mean, they could have spared a lot of kids some heartache, but
Yeah. All right. Well, all the best to you all. Thank you so much again.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Can't wait to be back.
Okay. Take care.